Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, chances are you've probably taken at least a few steps to protect yourself today.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like you probably locked your front door this morning.
Yeah.
You might be using, a VPN or relying on some complex multi-factor authentication for your bank accounts. Or, you might even be wearing a massive pair of noise-canceling headphones right now just to survive a crowded commute.
Which is very real. We are completely conditioned to rely on these physical and digital walls to keep the chaos of the modern world at bay.
Exactly. But today, we're going to look at a completely different paradigm of protection. We have this massive stack of sources on the table, ranging from historical mineral lore and metaphysical texts to, comprehensive retailer guides. And it is all centered on a single, unassuming, deep black rock. Black Tourmaline, which is also known as schorl.
It's a genuinely captivating subject to synthesize. Whether you're someone who already has a dedicated shelf full of crystals, or you're just a deeply stressed out professional looking for a new psychological framework to manage burnout.
Which is most of us.
Right. The literature surrounding this specific mineral offers a really profound look at how humans attempt to control their invisible environments.
Yeah, and the sources describe it chemically as a crystalline boron silicate mineral compounded with iron, magnesium, and aluminum. But in the metaphysical world, this exact combination is revered as the premier protective stone.
The absolute gold standard for them, yeah.
So, let's unpack this. In an era where you and I are constantly bombarded by invisible forces, from the Wi-Fi router flashing in the corner of your room to a coworker's inexplicably terrible mood, what can we actually learn from a centuries-old belief in a piece of boron silicate?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, we have to examine the underlying architecture of that supposed energetic shield. What's fascinating here is that the texts don't just throw around the word protection as some vague, mystical concept. They outline a highly specific, active mechanism.
It's not just magic. Magic is like a system.
Exactly. We are exploring a complex philosophy found in these sources about how energy actually moves, how it interacts with the human nervous system, and how you can theoretically manipulate your spatial environment.
Let's get into the anatomy of that mechanism then. Because the primary claim to fame for Black Tourmaline across all these texts is its role as this formidable defender against negative energy.
Yes.
But, how do the sources claim a rock actually protects you from a bad day? Because when I picture a shield, my mind immediately goes to a knight holding a heavy piece of steel. A sword hits the steel, and the sword just bounces off.
And that's where this gets interesting, because the lore specifically contrasts Black Tourmaline with other stones that are said to simply block or deflect.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The primary mechanism detailed in the metaphysical text is actually absorption and transmutation.
Okay, wait, absorption.
Right. The belief is that the stone actively absorbs negative or lower frequency energies. It acts as a receiver. And then rather than just acting as a storage container, it supposedly transmutes those energies into a neutral state.
Oh, wow. So instead of acting like a mirror that just reflects a laser beam back into the room, it functions more like an energetic catalytic converter.
That's a great way to put it.
Or maybe a compost bin. The idea is that it takes in toxic exhaust or emotional garbage, breaks it down, and neutralizes it into something completely harmless.
That captures the functional claim perfectly, actually. It filters the environment so the heavy energy never actually impacts your personal field.
Right.
And the sources often point to a real, verifiable physical trait of the mineral to justify this metaphysical claim.
Wait, really? There's a physical trait?
Yeah, Black Tourmaline has a unique crystalline structure that is both piezoelectric and pyroelectric.
Okay. Science words, what does that mean?
It means when the stone is put under physical pressure, rubbed, or even just heated by the ambient temperature of human skin, it actually develops a subtle electrical charge.
You're kidding.
No, it develops actual positive and negative poles at opposite ends.
That is wild. So the sources are taking a documented scientific phenomenon like crystal electricity and mapping a spiritual function onto it.
Precisely. In the metaphysical framework, this subtle electrical charge is what actively pulls in and repels various frequencies.
Okay, so what kind of frequencies are we talking about here?
The list is highly specific. The texts mention shielding against psychic attacks and ill-wishing, but they also highlight something called energetic vampirism.
Energetic vampirism. I have to admit, that sounds like a plot device from a Gothic novel.
It does, But the way the sources define it is almost universally relatable.
How so?
It refers to individuals who, either knowingly or completely unconsciously, drain your emotional reserves, leaving you feeling entirely depleted after interacting with them.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Most people listening right now can probably picture a very specific person in their life who fits that description, like that colleague who traps you in a conversation and leaves you feeling like you immediately need a nap.
Exactly. The lore positions black tourmaline as a barrier against that specific type of emotional drain.
But the sources go beyond just interpersonal dynamics too, right?
They do. They claim the stone guards against environmental density.
Like the heavy, stagnant feeling you get walking into a hospital waiting room or like a really crowded subway car.
Exactly. And then there is a concept mentioned repeatedly in the texts, geopathic stress.
Okay, pause for a second because we need an ELI 5 here. What exactly is geopathic stress in the context of these beliefs? Are we talking about fault lines or something else?
It is a bit of both, actually. In metaphysical environmental design, geopathic stress refers to the idea that the Earth naturally emits certain electromagnetic vibrations. The belief is that these natural vibrations can become distorted by subterranean features. So things like underground streams of running water, heavy mineral concentrations, or, yes, geological fault lines.
And why is that bad for us?
Proponents argue that if you sleep or work directly above one of these distorted zones, it causes chronic physical and mental stress. So black tourmaline is frequently recommended in the literature to neutralize those specific subterranean distortions.
Which bridges right into the next major modern threat the sources claim it mitigates, which is electromagnetic frequencies, or EMFs.
Right, the digital smog.
Yeah. The guides heavily advise using the stone to combat the invisible smog emitted by our laptops, microwaves, and cell phones. It seems like the lore has basically adapted this ancient stone to work overtime for the modern listener who is just trying to survive a heavily polluted digital space.
It really has. But if we look closely at how the text describe this absorption process, it brings up a logistical issue based on your compost bin analogy from earlier. Yeah, if this mineral is constantly absorbing all of this chaotic, heavy energy from bad moods, subterranean fault lines, Wi-Fi routers, that energy has to go somewhere. The framework dictates that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed.
Oh, right. It has to be grounded.
Yes.
Which leads perfectly into the stone's second major property detailed in the texts, which is deep stability. They call it gravity for the soul. The sources introduce this concept as energetic anchoring.
Right, energetic anchoring. Black tourmaline is described as a direct, unshakable conduit to the Earth's core.
Okay.
And to understand the mechanics of this, we have to look at the stone's profound association with the root chakra, known in Sanskrit as Muladhara, which is located at the very base of the spine.
So in the traditional energetic framework, the root chakra is your absolute foundation. It is the center that governs your sense of physical safety, your security, and your basic primal survival instincts.
Exactly.
Let's quickly define the auric field that the texts mention in relation to this, because I think it helps visualize what is supposedly happening here.
Sure.
The auric field is described as the bubble of subtle energy surrounding your physical body. When you're feeling ungrounded, flighty, or like completely overwhelmed by your to-do list, the texts argue that your energy has pooled up high in your aura, around your head. You are literally top-heavy.
Yes, and so the stone's theoretical function is to grab that scattered energy that's pulling you upward and yank it straight down through your physical body, anchoring it firmly into the floor. It acts as a heavy tether.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I think it challenges how most of us naturally handle stress.
How do you mean?
Well, let's say I'm feeling incredibly anxious. My instinct is usually to try and lift my mood up. I want to feel lighter, higher, more optimistic. Why does this philosophy argue that pulling energy down into the dirt is the ultimate solution for anxiety reduction? Like, on the surface, pulling things down sounds kind of depressing.
That's a really fair question.
Yeah.
But if we examine how the metaphysical sources characterize anxiety, the logic holds up perfectly. Yeah. In these texts, anxiety is almost never described as heavy or low. It is described as scattered, chaotic, and flighty.
Oh, that makes sense.
When you are highly anxious, your awareness is no longer in your physical body. Your mind is racing 10 steps ahead, living in some hypothetical future where everything goes horribly wrong.
You're essentially disconnected from physical reality. Like, think about your body right now as you listen to this. Are your shoulders hunched up by your ears? Are you taking shallow breaths from your chest instead of your diaphragm?
Exactly. That is the ungrounded state the texts are describing.
Wow.
By rooting that energy down, the texts argue you interrupt the nervous system's fight or flight loop. The sources specifically suggest a visualization technique for this.
What's the technique?
You hold the stone and picture thick roots growing out of the soles of your feet, pushing through the floorboards and burying deep into the earth's core.
Oh, I like that.
Black tourmaline supposedly facilitates this downward pull, removing the erratic pressure from your mind, because you simply cannot be racing towards a hypothetical future disaster if your awareness is profoundly anchored in the physical sensation of the present moment.
Right. You have to stop the spinning before you can introduce the lightness. The stone acts as the transmuting filter for the bad stuff and then acts as the anchor, dumping the excess chaos into the earth.
Precisely.
But once that chaotic energy is absorbed and your body is grounded, you're left with an empty space.
Which brings us to the next phase of the architecture described in the lore. What fills the void once the static is cleared.
According to the texts, this is the moment where vitality or life force energy, which is frequently referred to as prana or chi-kan, finally flow unimpeded.
Yes, prana and chi are these ancient concepts of the vital breath or universal energy that sustains all life. The theory is that you've unclogged the energetic drain, allowing fresh water to rush in.
The sources make a crucial point here, though. This flow of vitality doesn't just maintain itself passively. To keep the space clear, you have to become an active architect of your environment.
You have to do the work.
Right. I actually found a fantastic quote in the source material from a retailer called Crystals by Rob. They refer to black tourmaline as the load-bearing pillar of energetic architecture.
Load-bearing pillar, I like that.
The text notes it is meant for soul architects who understand that if you want to build your personal vision upward, you need a remarkably robust perimeter. You cannot build a skyscraper on quicksand.
And this is the point in the literature where the theory translates into highly specific, practical applications. The mineral is presented as a tool, but a tool requires an operator to employ it with intention.
So what do the actual blueprints look like? If I want to build this perimeter, what are the texts telling me to do?
Well, for personal energetic hygiene, the primary practice outlined is called aura sweeping.
Oh, sweeping.
Yes. The instructions dictate taking a piece of rough black tourmaline and physically sweeping it a few inches away from your skin, starting at the crown of your head and moving slowly down your arms, torso, and legs.
So you are operating a literal handheld spiritual vacuum cleaner.
Essentially, yes. The practitioner is instructed to visualize the stone magnetically collecting the emotional debris accumulated throughout the day. And when the stone reaches the feet, the critical final step is to flick the stone downward, conceptually casting the collected static into the earth.
Oh, that's interesting. What about the environment?
Beyond the body, there is environmental architecture. The guides frequently detail creating protective grids. This involves placing 4 pieces of tourmaline in the 4 extreme corners of a room or property to seal the perimeter.
And for the EMF mitigation we talked about earlier, the texts advise placing pieces directly between yourself and the source of the radiation. So like putting a chunk on the desk right next to the Wi-Fi router, or maybe in front of the smart meter on the side of your house. You can also use it for sleep and meditation by placing it under the soles of your feet, or resting it directly on the root chakra at the base of the spine.
Although I will say, the sources do include a fascinating caveat about using it in the bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah. Because its grounding effect anchors your awareness so firmly into the physical body, some practitioners report finding it way too stimulating for sleep.
Really?
Yeah, it might make you feel so physically present and awake that drifting off becomes difficult, requires experimentation.
That actually brings up a major logistical pushback I had while reading through all these retailer guides and metaphysical manuals.
What's that?
If this stone is working a 2-4-7 shift like, absorbing my daily commute anxiety, the radiation from my laptop, my coworkers' endless complaining, and subterranean fault line stress, doesn't it eventually hit capacity? I mean, if it acts like a sponge can only hold so much water before it starts leaking dirty water everywhere.
It's a very logical concern.
Yep.
And the source material of this across all the texts, which is black tourmaline must be regularly and thoroughly cleansed. The belief is that because it is so highly absorbent, if it becomes saturated, its energetic frequency drops, and it can actually begin to emit the stagnant energy it has collected.
Make it make sense. So how do you empty the metaphysical compost bin?
The rituals rely on returning the stone to the raw elements. The most common method suggested is holding the mineral under cool, running water for several minutes to just wash the charge away.
Okay, that's easy enough.
Alternatively, leaning into its profound connection with the dirt, the texts suggest burying the stone directly in the earth. You bury it in a garden or a potted plant overnight, allowing the soil to draw out and neutralize the absorbed energies.
The sources also mention smoke cleansing, right? Often called smudging.
Yes.
This involves lighting herbs or woods, like sage, palo santo, or cedar, and passing the stone through the thick smoke to clear its energetic field. It is a very deliberate ritual of maintenance, like you are actively taking care of the tool that takes care of you.
And to truly grasp how deeply ingrained this mineral is in our collective metaphysical history, we have to look at the incredibly diverse web of correspondences tied to it.
Yeah.
Different cultures and belief systems have mapped their own unique symbols of grounding, limitation, and protection onto this one black rock.
The list of associations in the text is absolutely staggering, but what really stands out is the underlying logic connecting them all. For instance, astrologically, black tourmaline is heavily associated with the planet Saturn.
Right.
Why Saturn? Well, in astrological frameworks, Saturn is the great taskmaster. It is the planet of structure, limitation, and boundaries, literally symbolized by the heavy rings that form a perimeter around it. It perfectly mirrors the stone's supposed function as a boundary setter.
And the herbal associations follow the exact same logic. The texts tie the stone to herbs like ashwagandha root, turmeric root, and dandelion root.
Oh, interesting.
These are not delicate flowers that bloom in the sun, They are robust subterranean roots that pull their nutrients from deep within the dark earth. They're traditionally used in herbalism to stabilize the body and reduce stress.
And when you look at the animal and spirit associations, it paints such a vivid picture. The guides list bears, wolves, ants, cows, and bulls. They list mythological spirits like dwarfs, gnomes, and leprechauns.
It's so consistent.
It is. Like, why an ant? Because an ant builds complex, load-bearing structures in the dirt. Why a bear? Because a bear represents an unstoppable force of grounded, physical weight, retreating into a dark cave to hibernate and conserve energy.
And the mythological spirits, dwarfs and gnomes, are the literal guardians of the underground. They mine the earth.
Right.
And the deities associated with the stone, gods like Pan and Cernunnos, are figures deeply tied to the raw, untamed, yet foundational energies of the natural world.
This just shows that black tourmaline, in the eyes of its proponents, isn't about escaping reality. It isn't a tool for floating away into some ethereal higher realm to avoid your problems.
No, not at all.
It is about planting your feet firmly in the mud, dealing with the physical world, and finding your power right here on Earth.
It is the ultimate embrace of the physical present. The framework doesn't invite you to transcend your difficult surroundings. It equips you to master them.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've explored black tourmaline not just as a pretty piece of deep black boron silicate sitting on a retailer's shelf, but as a complex conceptual tool for managing the friction of modern life.
We really have.
We've looked at the claims of it being a transmuting shield against negativity, a heavy anchor for the root chakra to quell an anxious, racing mind, and a load-bearing pillar for building personal vitality.
It really presents a highly structured, comprehensive system for personal energetic hygiene.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? I think the true beauty of this deep dive is that whether or not you literally believe in the energetic frequencies of crystals, piezoelectricity, or auric fields, the practices associated with black tourmaline are undeniably powerful psychological tools.
Oh, without a doubt.
Setting a conscious boundary before you walk into a difficult meeting. Taking a literal moment to physically ground your feet into the floor when you feel your breathing get shallow. Consciously deciding to cleanse your environment of physical and emotional clutter. These are deeply healthy, practical habits for your well-being, whether you use a black stone as a visual reminder or not.
I completely agree. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, consider the strict rituals of programming and cleansing this stone that the texts insist upon.
Okay.
You hold the rock, you set a firm intention for your own protection, and later you deliberately wash it to signify clearing away the accumulated stress of your day.
Yeah.
This raises an important question to ponder as we wrap up. What if the literal mineral composition of the stone is secondary?
What do you mean?
Think about the science of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated behaviors. What if the ultimate protective shield isn't the physical rock sitting on your desk, but rather the fact that this object forces you to rehearse the psychological habit of boundary setting every single day, slowly but permanently altering how your nervous system responds to stress.